like, if there's a problem, do you actually have the skill set to solve it? If there's an injury, if there's a strange customer service issue, does your team respect you as a leader because they know you know your stuff?
Right.
I've been in situations where I've been in a leadership position, but I haven't, kind of shooting from the hip quite a bit, and that doesn't go great, right? Like for obvious reasons, but a big one is just your staff, like they can see through it, right?
All right, welcome back, Little Jim Big Heart. I'm back with the Powerstrength team, another series of Powerstrength employees and the founder, Mark Ennis. And I'm excited to talk today about how they structure their regional manager positions. And I've got two of them right here. We have Cam White and Brian Paulsen, both regional managers at Powerstrength. Why don't you introduce you guys? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, Cam White, been with Powerstrength for 5 years total, but regional manager for our Barton Center, Kentwood, and Holland locations. Also our COO here.
Yep, Brian Paulsen, been with Powerstrength for going on 9 years, so quite some time, and started as just a performance coach and worked my way up through the ranks, and now I'm a regional manager, so I oversee our Plainfield location as well as our Alpine location.
Cool. Let's get a summary of all the locations. We've heard enough from Mark in the last couple of interviews. Break down all the locations, like individually, but also like what you oversee, and how it all fits together.
Yeah, so just kind of starting with the region that I oversee, we've got our Holland location, one of our newest ones in 2024. We have our Kentwood location, one of the OGs, 2017, I believe. And then our newest one, Barton Center, just opened that 2 months ago, which is a little bit different. It's kind of different for us compared to the other locations since we're in another facility. But then we have also Jenison as well. That's kind of, it's going to be reorganized shortly, but that's another one of our big flagship locations.
Cool. How many total locations?
So we have 6 locations, flagship locations I'm calling them, and then we have 2 academies that we're opening up here in the next couple of weeks. We've got our Jenison location up and running, but we're launching our Plainfield Academy here in the next 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, just for context, the academy is specializing what, 1st to 4th grade?
1st through 7th grade.
Got it.
Will be in the academies. Yep.
Cool. All right. And then which ones directly? Say it again. What you oversee?
Plainfield and Alpine.
Okay.
Yep, so Alpine was kind of the OG Powerstrength. That's where we moved to after we got out of the garage. Next 2016, I think, is when that one opened. And then Plainfield's relatively new. That was, I guess, going on 3 years ago this summer now. And then I have the Plainfield Academy right across the way as well.
Yeah.
So the regional manager role in the fitness industry, in my experience, is somewhat not well defined. I think it's like you get businesses like Orange Theory and F45, and the regional manager is kind of a glorified coach that just coaches at multiple facilities. How do you guys define the regional? What does it mean to be a regional manager?
Yeah, so the regional manager certainly oversees the sales for those locations. They're responsible for that. They're responsible for the staffing and making sure our schedules, as Mark talks about all the time, our schedules are holy grail, right?
Yeah.
So we're making sure that those are efficient as possible, and then really implementing the marketing strategy from those locations as well.
What are maybe it's like, what are your core responsibilities? Like, the buck stops with you. Mm-hmm. What are the things that you are like ultimately responsible for that really predicate like how successful you are? How are you being reviewed?
Yeah, reputation's a big one for me, like the actual quality of the product, and if something needs to be done on that front to make sure that gets adjusted. Of course, revenue and these other metrics are kind of I would put the 2 big ones as revenue as well as just quality, and I'll put quality and reputation as one. But to me, that's kind of what the 2 big ones for me.
And where does that show up in the data? So obviously somebody like Mark is very analytical. Mm-hmm. When I look at people, I want to know, based on the numbers, how are you doing? Versus like reputation is one thing, but like our product is really good.
Yeah.
What are the numbers that you guys are held accountable to?
When you talk about product and the quality of the product, we see that really highlighted in the retention number.
Yeah.
That's really the biggest thing is whenever we see a wave of cancellations, that's when we really dial into, hey, what's the product looking like, and that's when we'll bring in Skylar, to do some session evaluations if we need to. I know Brian and myself do evaluations as well, but that's really the biggest marker for us.
Yeah, length of stay, like talked about from a nutrition standpoint. I also, average revenue per member is a big one for me. What membership people are actually on. Obviously, that's somewhat of a sales piece as well. But I believe you can develop, your staff over time to really up their coaching game. You can get more members on essentially higher memberships.
Yeah.
So that's a big one for me as well.
Yeah. Now, Mark, from the owner's lens, like, what do you look to your regional managers to deliver for the business?
They've already mentioned performance, personnel, problem solving. So we're at 40 team members now. So it's way beyond me. And our success is predicated on leaders like we have, like these guys here. Couldn't do without them. But we can't do without them. How do you put them in a structure to let them do their thing?
Right.
So we just talked about performance, whether it's the product or revenue. The personnel. We have a lot of people. So are they developing how they need to be? Are there any issues? Staffing, scheduling, all the development of our future, of our current team and future team. Like, do they have a big hand in that, big role in that, on that development piece? And then, what problems should never really reach me? And even if it's reaching them, it's like, it's probably a bigger issue.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's the simplest way to refine it. And again, Cam's a little bit different as he continues to, we launched these locations, so he'll eventually be moving out and we'll put someone in behind him. But like Brian, Derek, my twin brother, right? When they're in these roles, it's like they are responsible for those facilities. They can, the day-to-day at their one that they're based out of, because they are primarily housed out of one, which I think is super important detail that we didn't mention. And then they're working hand in hand with the other facility or the academies become as like a half. And they're just in charge of just run these. So one gym for these guys would be boring. It'd be boring for them to do that.
Yeah.
Then it's like, all right, I want more of a challenge. I want more opportunity from that challenge. What can I do? So I can handle more problems. I can handle more on the performance side. And I can oversee and manage more personnel, more people under those roofs to make sure that that's just how it fits all together in our company. Now, so we'll have 3 regions with 3 regional managers, COO, and Director of Ops, Aubrey, and the Director of Training with Skylar.
Yeah, I think where I've struggled, and I think a lot of people struggle, is where do you draw the line between the work that you do and the work that you demand of others? Like, the regional manager shouldn't just be the super GM.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you get results through others versus what do you have to do versus what do you need other people to do that you oversee? And what stuff do you elevate to somebody else?
Big one for me, a lot of the day-to-day stuff, coaching, that has to be able to be done, obviously, at a standard level consistently. I still enjoy being a part of the sales process, but I think a chunk of that needs to be on the facility leaders or people that are owning the coordinators for sure. Basic customer service items or customer hospitality items, if you will, need to be site level as well, that in most cases probably shouldn't get up to a regional manager to have to take care of unless it's some extenuating circumstances. So I think if you remove the coaching aspect and the really just the time consumption of that, plus your general customer service issues, adjustments, and that's removed from the regional manager, you can be a whole lot more autonomous and problem solve, right? If there's an issue, what needs to happen versus being bogged down with a crazy amount of work that you probably shouldn't be doing.
Right.
And that opens us up too in terms of our time management to really develop the teams too, right? So if we're able to delegate some of those things that Brian mentioned, like we're able to really focus on, like Mark said, the personnel side and making sure we're developing our teams so that they're set up for success and continue to make sure that the gyms are run smoothly.
I challenge them too a lot. I'm like, where's your headspace going? Where's the energy going? And is it where it should go?
Right.
They're gonna work. They're gonna solve problems. Like, we're gonna have them. I think some people think we don't need to have problems. Like, no, we're gonna have problems. Like, just make sure you're solving the ones that you should be solving.
Right.
Otherwise, that's where you get bogged down or your focus gets misaligned, right? So if they're freed up and just focus on the problems that they need to solve, then they can strategize. They can think of some tactics to bring that plan down to reality. use the team, use the components they have on their team to then get the result we want. That to me is a perfect ecosystem of how you get high performers.
What would you say is the limits up and down to your responsibilities? Meaning, what are the stuff that you're just not going to do? Of like, if coaches quit, are you the one that's responsible for going to coach? And what are the things that you maybe not? Is it like, do you fire the employees? Are you responsible for hiring?
I'll jump in on that one because really the expectation is like, hey, because it's the same thing with me too. What situations do I actually get involved with at this stage? But the regional, especially as we just launched 3 facilities in the last 4 months, so in one of these regions becoming a little more real, we had to really refine this role.
Yeah.
Why I keep going back to is like you're the regional manager. You have to solve the problem and get the job done. What's ever needed. Not you think
By any means necessary.
by any means, it's in the gym, and it's like that's not a forever thing. But if it's for 2 weeks, fine. If it's for 4 weeks, fine. But like, there's going to be a deadline because we're going to get back on track for the role. Does that mean you have to review the schedule / some sessions? Does that mean we need to move another coach over? Does that dictate our hiring? All that. Do whatever you got to do to get the result. That's kind of where I like hold them accountable to. And then they get, hey, is this the right track? This is my plan. Am I on the right track? Yeah. And then I can give guidance for that as well. But we've outsourced. I won't say outsourced. We outsourced to headquarters all of our recruiting, hiring, and as much onboarding as possible. Which we could talk. Maybe you guys speak to that a little bit too. The regional manager will have a hand in that handoff when they get down to that site level, and then that continued development. But we wanted to focus as much as possible on that performance and everything that a manager or facility leader does get bogged down with time and is recruiting and interviewing and all that. We've gotten that at a headquarters level to make it as efficient as possible. That makes sense.
Anything else?
Nah, I mean, you mentioned like jumping in and coaching. Like, yeah, we'll be the first, like Mark said, like by any means. So we'll certainly do that when we're needed to.
I also say this too, these guys are great coaches. Brian's a world class coach.
Yeah.
So like taking him out is like, it pains me so much.
Yeah.
But also it's like, all right, if he's going to do it, it's going to be very well. It's specific. So they're basically evaluating while they're in there as well.
Right.
So what's the performance of the facility like during this shift or this hour? I'm going to make sure I coach with that newer coach, or I'm going to evaluate my athlete coordinator while I'm doing it. So it's like, hey, you're going to do this. Just their worth is too much for that one coaching hour. So if you're going to coach that 1 hour, it's not just coaching. You're maximizing that 1 hour as much as humanly possible, and then use that information to really elevate not only the role but the performance of your region.
Yeah. How does the scope of responsibility look like with holding people accountable, disciplinary stuff? Is the regional manager responsible for letting people go, or does that decision get elevated?
That decision's elevated for the most part.
Yeah.
Of course, the starting piece of that, is there a performance improvement plan that needs to occur and everything that happens in between then. But
would that be facilitated by the regional manager?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It would start. The regional would certainly start that process. If we got to that point, they'd be in on those conversations and meetings along with myself as a COO, but then Aubrey as our director of operations. So
Got it.
It's kind of a 3-pronged approach there.
Okay.
Yeah.
How else do you think? So again, I think the water gets muddy with like, what do you do versus what are you influencing? Like what is the biggest impact that you guys make as regional managers? If you guys weren't here or that role wasn't here, what would break first?
Development. I think is my gut reaction to that is just we talk a lot, but new levels, new devils, right? So as we keep growing,
That's a writer-downer right there.
Who's going to be responsible for helping people develop as you deal with more problems that you potentially haven't seen before? As of course, if you elevate staff, they're going to be in new positions, facing new problems that they definitely haven't seen before. So how do we develop them to also be great followers, but also be great leaders, so that when they have some people that are underneath, we'll call it underneath them, or that are kind of viewing them as a leader, how do they maximize that as well? So to me, it's the development.
So let's talk, because we've talked a couple podcasts now. The word development is very big in your world. How does that show up day to day? Like what is on your calendar that is like, this is when I develop, this is how I develop?
Yeah, we meet with staff every week, so that's kind of a no-brainer with,
Yeah.
you know, when I talk to each of our staff across the entire region, there's a development piece to it focused on what, you know, I say what they need to, or sorry, want to learn and want to grow in, but also what they need to improve in, you know,
Yeah.
and then do a lot of course, auditing of sessions or auditing of customer service and making sure that we're just addressing those issues when they pop up, or I don't want to say addressing those issues, congratulate them on great things that are occurring, right? Like positive reinforcement with those actions. But outside of the weekly meetings that we have with each of our staff, it's going to look a lot like auditing our product, which of course is going to be our customer service work, our administrative work, our coaching, and
Yeah.
It's trying on that development piece too, because you say what would break first, and again, Brian's coach first at heart, so he goes development with staff. I look at development of the program or the development of that overall location's performance. And this is one of the reasons why we wanted to do this with multiple facilities. We still operate as one whole business, one whole team, and we don't want just have these up and down. That facility's good, that one's where it's
Right.
not shouldn't be. It's like, why was that one successful? Who's operating that? And then how do we really scale their expertise to elevate as a whole? So if they were in that role and they were just based at one facility, we'd have more of an up and down roller coaster type performance across our now eight facilities. So I look at development not just as an individual personnel. It's development of that program, which means elevating people into those coordinator positions. Development of are they hitting that scorecard? Are they hitting that revenue? Or am I looking at my sales pipeline and reviewing their performance as well, so I
Yeah.
can develop those specific skills that are needed.
Anything on that? What would break first if Cam White wasn't in the picture?
Say as we continue to develop our teams, right? I know Brian and myself do a lot of sales, right? So in gym and then both on the phone as well. We just had a meeting, obviously,
Yeah.
talking about it. So I know that would be a big constraint if you remove us out of that picture.
Nice. Who reports directly to you
Essentially,
Uh,
As a regional manager,
as a
as
regional
a region,
manager?
all right, okay.
well, yeah.
So our
Just do it broadly. Yeah.
Yeah, so our facility leaders, right, initially,
Yeah.
and then they report up to their coaches report to the facility leaders. So it's all
Yeah.
Steve and Caleb, who you met earlier today. So those guys initially.
So essentially, you've got your direct reports are just the facility leaders,
Mm-hmm.
and then they've got coordinators and coaches that report to them.
Correct.
What's your like touch point cadence with the other coaches though?
Yeah. So it kind of varies, but I know from a company standpoint, we always do our coordinator meetings every week, so that all the coordinators from across the company get on the call. Mark's been leading those lately, and so like that's an initial touch point. As a regional, I'll do my touch points with my facility leaders every week as well.
Yeah.
And then we also have a leadership meeting on Monday, so we're all touching base multiple times.
And is that one-on-one leadership meeting or is that a group
That's a group.
leadership? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of one-on-one cadence?
Yeah, and that's what we're
Yes.
trying to refine as
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
continue to. So like, it's like what's needed is
Yeah.
one. We just had this discussion last week, so it's really timely and like boots on the ground. We're figuring this stuff out too, right? Was 1-to-1, I don't know, with a facility leader and a team member needed every week? When does the regional manager meet with every team member? Because if they're really responsible for the development of underneath, like, well, when does that break? Well, how often they need it? Could they go every other week? And so, what we kind of landed on as we're rolling this out, literally, I think next week, is like regional manager, like you get boots on the ground. You should meet with someone every other week, and then we'll peg where they're at in the development process. So a newer team member might need a week to week, 1-to-1 touch point with the regional every week until X time. You know, to just that way we're not getting all your time's not taken up in meetings and just regurgitating what we said in the full team and the coordinator meetings and rolling downhill. Because at our size, you can't make that time, that efficiency is so valuable.
Right. Death by meeting. You don't want death by meeting.
For sure.
Yeah.
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 I lost my train of thought with the question I was going to ask. What is a day in the life of a regional manager? And every day is probably going to be different, but do you have it's a question I asked Skylar in another episode. If you had like a checklist for like this week, I checked all the boxes. What does that checklist look like to be like, this was a great regional manager week?
I'll have Brian start because he's truly in that seat. I'm wearing multiple hats, but I'll let him start with that one.
Yeah, I want to make sure that the big one is the scorecard is on. So
Yeah.
if it's not, or we'll throw revenue in there as well per
Right.
program. So if the scorecard or the revenue is not where I think it should be, or I have some questions, that's going to be probably priority number one. Two, again, is the personnel. Like, is there any issues with any of the personnel, or do I see some specific development that needs to occur that week that's a little bit more timely?
Let me ask you, is there a place that you kind of log that? So I'm a very objective, like I like scorecards, I like things that are very black or white. When you say like, are there issues that need to be addressed? Is there like a log you're keeping? Is there a dashboard with all of your direct reports and taking notes on them? Or is it kind of a little bit subjective?
No, it's pretty subjective. I put mine on my weekly checklist that I
Got it.
have to fill out essentially. But that's, yeah, I mean, that's obviously a priority.
Right.
Each week is filling that sucker out and making
So what's
sure.
on that checklist?
Essentially roles for the week. You know, a lot of it's going to be some administrative stuff. Make sure we do our bank deposits. Make sure we respond to all customer service items
Yeah.
you know, in a speedy fashion. You know, if we're coaching, making sure we're preparing for coaching and doing those items. Facility walkthrough, make sure the facility looks good and we're taking care of any facility issues on that front.
Yeah.
Reviewing schedules, making sure the schedule's good for weeks in advance. Making sure all the location schedules are good. Making sure we're touching base with each our direct reports and making sure that there's no personnel issues. Do we have any new onboarding individuals that need specific meetings, help?
And you fill that out once a week?
Once a day. So
Okay.
we have.
So it's a daily shift report.
Basically, we have, yeah. So that's what's fun about growth, because we
Yeah.
review these all the time and have to redo them all the time, especially as we make new roles. So
So it's funny, we
have
just
that
installed a daily
Yeah.
shift report.
Yeah.
It's like the morning shift, evening shift, facility issues, was staff late, was any, customer complaints, broken equipment. So I think at scale, like when I first started talking about that with my team, I think were like, that seems like a lot. You really do need a daily
No.
shift report.
You do, and again, we basically we keep that a lot of that on the site level. We
Right.
do a pre-shift and a post-shift client and checklist, or
Yep.
open and close checklist as well, where it's just like, this is what has to happen. And then this is what needs to be elevated and reported on
Right.
quickly. But even every role, this is what you do daily. This is what you do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yep.
On the day, this is what you do on a monthly basis and a quarterly basis. That's all laid out for them so they can kind of know that. So even they could be responsible for it, but like Brian mentioned a few things, it's like some other people could be doing, but ultimately Brian's responsible
Yeah,
for it.
buck stops with him.
Yeah, and like they were that, we call it like they have to pretend like they're the owner, so to speak, on many of these things. So, there's a facility item of the roof's leaking. Did you push that up the chain accordingly? Like, or are you just gonna sit on it for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
How long has this been a problem? So we have a great
And is that a form that's submitted in like a centralized dashboard? Is it?
for like a facility issue.
Yeah.
Yep. We have a Slack channel that
Cool.
any sort of facility issue that may come about. It could be just a malfunctioning of equipment, or
Yeah.
equipment's broken to, we have a leak, or we have something going on with issues, gets immediately posted in there. And,
Nice.
Yeah.
So
problem
back to like your day to day, like what does a start to finish your day look like in the regional manager seat?
Yeah, usually when I get into work, there's going to be some planning for that specific day. So, of course, going through my checklist, making sure I'm going to be able to check everything off and just develop a plan for that
Yeah.
day or a priority.
And
If
you're
I have
doing
any-
that daily.
Yeah, for sure. And if I have any specific to-dos that really need to get accomplished that day or by that day, that will get thrown in there as well. If I need to do any coaching, that's need to show up
Yeah.
and coach and be a part of that in any meetings and that such. But yep, essentially when I get in, I need to make sure I can clean up my checklist and make sure that all the tasks I'm supposed to be doing
Yeah.
are getting done. And then anything extra or anything, again, if something's off or a problem needs to be solved, or there's a specific customer service issue that maybe my staff might not have the best answers for, that's the stuff I'm gonna, take care of as quickly as possible.
Is it safe to say, and I've been thinking about this concept myself, it's not necessarily a role that there's stuff to do as much as it's like all the responsibility is on me that it gets done. Sometimes you're doing stuff.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
But it's not like I
yeah.
have to click a certain number of buttons and do the tasks. It's just, and it's also a job that when things go bad, it usually all happens at once.
Yeah, well, we're this is a great distinction as I was listening to Brian talk about that. The distinction is like, if you look at GM or a facility leader and then you have one facility, like you're kind of trying to fill that time. A regional is like, this is what has to get done. There has to be enough buffer for whether it's emergency or just strategy, or
Yeah.
they need to have available. They need thinking time. They need to be able to figure that stuff out, or adapt to like, hey, this time of year, these are the weekly to-dos that are going to come up. These are the things that I have to get done. So we want enough space in between there. But you're right. It's like it looks like, well, they're responsible for all of this stuff. Yeah, but it's well
Yeah, most stuff
organized
doesn't
and
happen.
yeah,
It's not a task as much as it's.
it's a responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that responsibility is what breaks people down,
Mm-hmm.
is because they struggle with how to get results through others
Mm-hmm.
versus they're really good at doing stuff. But when it comes to leading and holding people accountable and getting results through others, I think that's where a lot of people struggle when they ascend to a management role.
I'll say this too and preface this. 15 years, what's this year 15? He's been with me for, again, going on 9. He's been around forever, as an athlete and all the way up through the ranks. My twin brother with Skylar, like these guys have been with us for years. You have to be a dog to sit in this role, how we have it outlined. This isn't just, hey, we have multiple locations, so go be the regional and figure it out. It's like, no, like these are people that could operate their own location if they wanted to.
Right.
They could do that stuff like, hey, like you need multiple skills at a high level.
Right.
Not just am I available to do it, I'm kind of interested. They would fail. So this is like a very advanced role to ascend to. And that's why we've been able to have the success we have.
Is it possible to bring somebody in from the outside to be a regional manager here?
I don't think so. And I think, they would have to, not at Powerstrength, with us, would be very challenging because of the athlete, adult, now youth model, and then learning how to integrate with our headquarter functions.
Learning how to work with you.
Working on our work with me, and just the standard, and there's 1%. So yeah, 1 out of 100 might have a chance, but I bring someone in within a year or two, somebody that's a really good leader or a manager within a year or two for sure.
Yeah.
But just off the street and say, by the way, you're doing this regional manager role and getting you ready to go in 2 to 3 weeks. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I made the mistake of. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think again, maybe this is a limiting belief on like our industry is different, our business is different. There are a lot of things that you have to have so much understanding of how they work to like, we had a regional manager and, again, the failure of that role was purely on us for not having enough training, enough onboarding, enough development in place. For example, like they were responsible for like the trial conversion rate. And, he had never done trial conversions in our business. So we're holding him accountable to this thing. And I'm like, has he ever done it himself? And the answer was no. And it was like, that's on us for setting somebody up for a position that they failed in.
Yeah, they can do it. And we've had many versions of this.
Right.
And so we've kind of been able to build this in stages. That's why I'm so like adamant about it and just direct about it. Like they can have the title, but somebody else is probably going to own the decision, own the true problem solving, and own the true strategy, and then they can kind of implement it. For them to truly own it, though, they have to have those skills to do it. So somebody else would do it, and it's probably going to be the owner or somebody else, or hey, that one regional manager's a little more advanced, and he's going to carry the other ones. So if we're being honest and direct, like that's what would happen, or probably what could happen. But that means it's just not as strong as it should be. So we're trying to be really intentional about like if you're going to sit in that seat, this is what is needed for that seat, and put the right people in there with the right skill set.
And if I may interject a little bit, one of the things I think I view as overlooked as super important from a regional perspective, at least in our business, is sharing the vision and making sure that people know what's upcoming and really just what's in store for them. In our setup, Mark doesn't have daily conversations with all of our staff, right? That's actually on the rarer side, unless we have a full team meeting. And so it's like if he's not going to be communicating the vision to each of our people, or they're getting it very sparingly, once every 6 months or once every 3, how do we as regional managers really communicate the vision so it's like we can get our team fired up? They know what's upcoming and what's expected and what we need to hit and what we need to do and why. I think that's a huge, if you have a regional, like you said, it'd be tough to just come in off the street because it's like, can they share the vision?
Yeah.
Do they even know the vision?
Right.
And, how like deep are they into caring about that? And so I think that's a big piece too.
Totally true. 100%. That's a great.
What would you say is the hardest part about this regional manager role?
I'd say the ability to just change hats, on the the turn of a dime. You know, you got to be able to go from your
Yeah.
sales role right into a development role with a team member to coaching role to a marketing role, and start to have like those deeper thoughts and like, hey, how are we actually take ownership of the program? How can we build it? What can we do to do that? So, yeah, I think it's just the ability to change hats, you know, very quickly.
And then Mark calls him to talk about high picture, high strategy stuff, or high systematic stuff. And I'm like, how much time do you got? No,
Yeah.
that's sparingly, but it happens. I give these guys a lot of credit for saying, I can't talk about that right now. I gotta go.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think performance when you're not there, kind of like you already mentioned, right? I think the most challenging part for me is developing better leaders that we can trust that, you know, hey, if I don't have an immediate hand in this or I'm not completely overseeing them and they know it, are they still going to do a good
Right.
job of providing, again, a good product or all the stuff that we care about? And I think that's the challenge since I've taken on the role is like, how do I really, kind of like Mark said, it's, you know, when you oversee one facility for a while, you can get pretty good at it. You know, you get efficient and people
Yeah.
know you're always there and hey, the boss is always here. But then, you know, what happens when you expand that a little bit and
Yeah.
the boss isn't always here? And how do you create better leaders so that that doesn't matter whatsoever?
Question that I forgot earlier. What's your relationship with the clientele of these locations? Are you a touch point person? Are you just the guy that hangs around? Do they know you at all?
I think we have different relationships with our clients and with our members. I'm more of like the guy in the shadows.
Yeah.
Personally.
Batman. Yeah.
Batman. Yeah. And I'm okay with that. I'll come out of the shadows when I'm with a coach, right, and provide that face. But then also on the sales side too, right. I'm usually one of the first people they see.
Yeah.
I, third party market our coaches, get them, hyped up to go train with them, and then, they don't typically see me all the time. I think Brian's a little bit different, but you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's pretty, we'll call it shadowy as well. You know, I have a slightly different relationship with our clients because I've been coaching a lot of them
Right.
for so long.
Yeah.
And so, I have a little bit, I'll show my face a little bit more for the clientele that have been around that I know really well.
Right.
But, if you were to say, hey, how many like of our current athletes do you associate with, or would they know you because you've had an actual interaction with them? It's probably pretty small.
It's a lot of stuff we talk about as owners where the owner gets off the floor.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, you asked me that question, like, next year, it's going to be, like, less and less.
Right.
Because they're just ascending,
But I think the fact that you're so heavily involved in the sales means that you're kind of vetting all the new members and like you at least get that touch point. And I think we've struggled with that.
Yeah.
Like, cause it's like, we've got people that are in this regional manager role and like, if you don't have a touch point with the clients, it's hard
Yeah.
at all, because if something happens with a coach and you got to step in, it's just like, who is this guy? Like
Yeah.
some person that came out of the woodwork and now is my trainer.
that factors in some of our structure as well.
How do you oversee the sales? Is it fully on you guys to do the sales, or is it just, hey, when I'm available, I'll do a consult here or there? Like,
My role's relatively salesy, meaning so for our Plainfield location, I'm doing a heavy, almost every single call, really every single call outside of a special circumstance here and there, and most of the consults, which is for our adult side, and then most of our athlete assessments as well. So on our athlete side, for our Alpine location, I do quite a few of the calls. Austin, who runs the facility over there, does the rest of the consults or assessments for athletes. So my role is a little bit more salesy. Kind of like Mark talked about already, built into the role is some freedom. So like certain points of the year, we have a huge upswing in athletes. So I'm going to make myself way more available so I can do more calls, more assessments, set the standard there. And then sometimes it's going to be a little bit less. But yeah, so pretty heavy, me personally, on the sales role. And when you get our coordinators or our facility leaders get really proficient at the call piece or assessment or consult piece, that can start to be handed off a little bit more.
Yeah, my role just depends on the site, right? So, at Byron Center, I'm doing a lot of all of our adult calls essentially. Steve's helping out a big time with that, but then a majority of the in-gym sales at Kentwood, I don't do hardly any, maybe just a couple calls. But then at Holland, like, it kind of ramps up, right? So it just kind of depends on the site.
nice. Where's the biggest bottleneck? Like, where do you see the biggest, like, coming down the pipeline, where are things going to get pinched shut that you might struggle, that you might run into issues that you have to elevate the next person or just might cause some friction?
Yeah, I think what we talked about earlier today is just on the sales side from a call standpoint, right? We get a good amount of leads, a lot of leads, so we want to be able to reach out to them as fast as possible, get them in for their consultation, and right now that's the biggest bottleneck I think for us.
Yeah, mine is my own issues, management, leadership, so the better I can get it at delegation, setting appropriate standards, managing, leading, I think that's always kind of been my biggest bottleneck, and really as a whole company, the more people we can bring along to do their role, or just really not even at a high level, but just complete their role to the standard, there's really not a whole lot that can go wrong. Just when we don't do a great job of setting people up for success is usually when stuff goes sideways.
So the last question I have for you guys, if somebody were to want to grow to be a regional manager, what would you tell them is the necessary skill, or tell them they need to be prepared for? Because a lot of people break when they hit that management role. What would you tell somebody that is eyeing up that job that they may want to do?
You got one?
You're laughing because it's like
It's
don't,
challenging.
dude, and this
I
is
got one.
like we're
I got
talking
one,
about.
but-
Listen, we're talking about
You got
regional
one. I got one.
manager.
You got one. Go. Yeah.
In the corporate world, this is middle management.
Yeah.
The corporate
Right.
world, like it's the running joke that middle management is like the worst place to be stuck in.
Yeah.
And I think you guys both cracked a smile because like it's a hard job.
No, this is for us though. This is upper management. Like this is
Yeah.
higher
For
level
regionals,
stuff
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So that like in our world. What
Yeah.
do you got?
I mean, easy to say leadership, but I won't. I think knowing stuff, that sounds silly, but like, if there's a problem, do you actually have the skill set to solve it? If there's an injury, if there's a strange customer service issue, does your team respect you as a leader because they know your stuff?
Right.
I've been in situations where I've been in a leadership position, but I haven't, kind of shooting from the hip quite a bit. And that doesn't go great, right? Like for obvious reasons, but a big one is just your staff, like they can see through it, right? But I think if you, like in our business, we have to be really experts in the youth program and the avatars associated, high school athlete, college athlete, sometimes professional athlete, then our adult program. And so if you're, hey, yeah, I'm good at athletes, but I don't know anything about adults, or, that's going to be a challenging role to fill,
The advice I would have is for like a facility leader that's like getting ready to kind of move into that regional, just doing your job consistently well. That's something I've talked to our team about just consistently for the last year and a half. It's just like, hey, you want to level up from a coaching standpoint, from a coordinator standpoint, you have to be able to do your job consistently well.
You can't have these like ebbs and flows where
Totally.
like when you turn it on, you're really good,
Yeah.
but you can let it slay. You gotta be locked in.
Yeah.
It's good. And I would just to lean into that, I would say like you probably should be bored with your job.
Yeah.
Because that means that you're efficient, you're doing it well, and you've buffered
Bored
time.
with your job with high performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, you better be producing. So this is so easy. Well, why isn't it better?
Yeah.
So I would say to pick it would be business IQ.
Yeah.
Which means not just, it could be kind of going off what Brian said was like, well, okay, yeah, well, how do I grow? Well, we can name 100 tactics on how to grow.
Yeah.
Do you know how to find the right strategy? Do you know how to find the right bottleneck? Do you know how to address that? And then get people on board and bring them along for that. So you need that big tool. But just like a great trainer has a huge toolbox, a great regional manager has a great toolbox as well for all those items of growth.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think this is awesome, guys. Appreciate you spending time hanging out. So thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Ted.
Thanks, Devin.
Good stuff. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that was good. Good job, guys.
You gotta head out, right?
Let's see. Yeah. Oh crap! I'm like, this is. Devin's rolling on this.